All right, it's 10 minutes past 2 o'clock and we are about to start. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining the Larry's Cafe Annual 2024 webinar. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Today, we're going to be discussing the topic creative rights, and we're going to be answering a very specific question: who owns what? This is basically answering a question to the different people in the creative industry. Basically, we know that the creatives are not the only ones in the industry, so we're going to be asking this and answering this question: who owns what within the industry? So it's like everybody knows that you have intellectual property when you create any form of work. So we're going to be answering who owns it at every point. It's very easy to assume that because you created it, you automatically own it. But we know that there are scenarios where people who invest money have like stakes to the things that we create, people who give in services, and then people who are like middlemen and different kinds of people that are involved in the creative industry. Plus, we know that the creative industry isn't just unilateral. It's not just music, it's not just poetry, it's not just photography, it's not just fashion, it's everything in different industries that we're now bringing into one and calling the creative industry. And with that, I want to say welcome to everybody. We are going to be starting now. Before we go into details, I would like all the attendees to unmute us, apart from our speakers, to unmute our mics and introduce ourselves. You don't have to turn on your videos, just unmute your mic, introduce yourself, and we'll pick it up from there. Anybody?
Hi everyone.
Hi.
Let me start. Hello,
All
can you
right.
hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, we are. My name is Falegon Olabode.
Hi, good afternoon.
I'm a developer. Yeah, I'm a programmer. I just
Sorry, I stopped hearing you, but you said you are a developer and a programmer. Okay, I believe there's an issue with his network, but he said he is a programmer and a developer. We're very excited to have him on here. We can move to the next person, pending when he joins us again. Any other person, introduce yourself. Tell us your name, what you do, and if you want to, how you got to know about this particular webinar. Anyone? Okay. All right. Before we continue on that, we can just move forward on what Larry's Cafe is about. So in as much as we want everyone to introduce themselves, I guess it's also important for us to know what exactly Larry's Cafe is about. So Larry's Cafe is actually an acronym for Larry's Culture, Art, Fashion and Entertainment. So the cafe is not a restaurant or a place where you drink coffee or buy or anything like that. It's actually an abbreviation. It means culture, art, fashion, and entertainment. And my name is Tem Larry Jane Gapsi, so you can just call me Tem, Tem, and I will be your host for today. I am an entertainment and intellectual property lawyer, and that's the major reason why I chose the particular topic that I chose in the first place. Hi Chimka. That's the major reason why I decided to discuss on this, because it's my strength. And I've worked in the entertainment and creative industry for a while now. And so basically I'm going to be speaking from the legal perspective, which is basically where the word rights come in. So in as much as we have creatives here on the call, I would like to hear it from the creatives, especially our speakers, but I'll also be speaking from the legal side, answering the question of rights. While they talk about the creatives, I'll be talking about the rights. Now Larry's Cafe is actually started as a blog in the year 2017. So actually we are technically 7 years old now, but we're just a blog then. And before we finally grew up into what you see now. Now we have a website, we have podcasts, we have a YouTube channel, we have courses, we also have ebooks that we have published as well. And But basically, Larry's Cafe is divided into some major segments. We have the Larry's Cafe Academy. Now, for you to get to the Larry's Cafe Academy, all you have to do is visit larryscafe.org and click on the courses. When you click on the courses, you are taken to the academy. Now, the academy is divided into two. It's divided into our ebooks and then our video courses. And from time to time, when we include live classes and the rest, all the updates will be on Larry's Cafe Academy. Now, it's basically where we teach everybody in the creative industry, both creatives themselves and other external professionals like maybe accountants, lawyers, metadata experts, royalty experts, and the like, about the creative industry. So we teach you the things you should know about the business side of the creative industry. So our goal at Larry's Cafe, at least in this particular space, especially for the creative economy, is to grow the creative economy. And we know that one of the pain points that we have right now is structure. So basically, Larry's Cafe is going to lend its voice, lend its efforts to create that structure. And we realize that the first step to creating that structure is education. So we are on a mission to basically educate everybody in the creative industry about each other. So we're not necessarily teaching you about things that are outside of the industry. We're teaching you about yourselves, your rights within the industry, your limits within the industry, so that you actually explore as much as possible and you do not leave below potential. So that's basically what Larry's Cafe Academy is about. Next, we have Larry's Cafe Production. Here we produce documentaries, films, and events. So far, we've only released one documentary, and the only events that we have produced so far is this webinar that we're producing every year. Next year, we're going to introduce more events. We're going to introduce more forms of production, but basically our productions are mostly documentary films and events. And then we have the Larry's Cafe database. Now, the Larry's Cafe database is still very private right now, but a few years from now it's going to be open to the public for contribution. So if you have anything that you would like to contribute towards culture, art, fashion, entertainment, and when I say contribute, I mean, for instance, if you are aware of a particular culture, maybe a strange culture where the men and women do not live together in Nigeria or any other part of Africa, you can lend that information to us. You can actually upload it onto our database. The reason we are building this database is basically to have a place where creatives can always dip their fingers into whenever they want any form of inspiration. So we know that we have like an untapped potential for storytelling and for different kinds of expressions, and that's why we decided to create a database. So for instance, the transport system in Nigeria, we know that it changes constantly, at least every few years. So we have information basically on the transport system per time. And you, as an author or a writer, if you want to write and your stories are dated, let's say that the story is supposed to be for the year 2020, we have information regarding that particular year on the database, so that when you do your research, you do not necessarily have to use too many sources. You can just go straight to Larry's Cafe, find all the information you need to find, and then write your stories without being scared of being unnecessarily fact-checked by your readers and maybe causing bad publicity for you eventually. So that's the point of the cultural database. But for now, it's not a public access database yet. We're still building it. In a few years it will be, and when it's finally ready, we will announce it. But for now, if you would like to contribute anything at all you have to do is send us an email at info@larryscafe.org. And finally, we have a community of creatives and professionals that you can access through our website, larryscafe.org. Basically, it's a group chat of the creatives and professionals. Like I mentioned earlier, the professionals will not just be people within the creative industry strictly, but we have people like lawyers, we have accountants, we have metadata experts, we have royalty experts, and many other people that work with creatives in this particular community. And that's what we're building, a community, so that you can be able to reach out to people for help, for advice, or just basically if you need any form of networking or you need any form of services. You do not have to go far. You don't have to post an announcement on your social media before you get any referral. You can just simply go to the Larry's Cafe community and connect with the relevant people. And as well, we'll also have things like job announcements and many other things going on, events announcements, anything that is basically going to help the industry. We'll put all the announcements there on the group chat. So that's what we are about. If you have any questions, you can write it in the comment section. You can send us a DM at Larry's Cafe on any social media platform, or you can send us an email, like I mentioned earlier, on info@larryscafe.org. So that's who we are. Now, this webinar is actually our third webinar so far. We started in the year 2022. We had our first webinar. It was on Telegram. Last year was the second webinar. It was on Google Meet. And this year being the third, this is also on Google Meet. And hopefully we intend to do this every single year. Of course, eventually we're going to have physical programs, but we'll always have the online platform so that people can actually always join from anywhere in the world. And most importantly, we're going to have a replay of this particular session, the webinar sessions, on YouTube, so you can go back there, listen, fast forward to the parts that you need to make references to, and enjoy. And with this, I would like to tell everybody, welcome to the 2024 Larry's Cafe webinar. Welcome. Thank you very much for coming. And with this, I would like to invite and welcome our speakers. Now we have 3 speakers in the house. We have a spoken word artist and an author. We have the second is a brand photographer, and the third is an IP enthusiast. She is also the former vice president of the National Intellectual Property Club in Nigeria. Now, we're going to start with our first speaker, which will be the brand photographer, Mr. Mufasa. I would like us to unmute our mics, give a round of applause to Mr. Mufasa. We could also put up emojis, clapping emojis. Basically, let him know that we are welcoming him. So, yeah, thank you very much. Welcome. Thank you for being here, Mr. Mufasa. Now, Mr. Mufasa started photography in the year 2017, shortly after his university. While he was working for a media company, and he noticed that the quality of images could actually be better. So he took on the challenge to become his own photographer. And in 2019, he wanted more. So he moved from Lagos to Abuja, where he found new opportunities and gaps in the local photography market. In 2023, he focused on corporate headshots for everyday women. And this year, being 2024, he shifted to personal branding, a natural progression from headshot work. And that is basically how he found his niche in personal photography and business branding photography. Thank you so much for being here, Mr. Mufasa. We know that we're going to learn a lot from you. Thank you for accepting our invitation to be here. Now, our second speaker today is Miss Oreva. She is a 3-time best-selling author and ANA Award nominee. And following the publication of her second novel in the year 2017, it was featured at the Ake Arts and Books Festival, where she was a guest, and she secured an ANA Literary Prize nomination. Her third novel, which is called Avalanche, earned a nomination for the African Christian Fiction Award. But beyond novels, she released her debut spoken word EP in the year 2022. She gathered thousands of streams worldwide, and she has performed poetry on many occasions, as well as beyond the shores of this country, being Nigeria. She performed at the Slameroon International Festival in Cameroon, and has performed at the Swedish Embassy, the French Institute, and a host of other organizations. Her words are set to provoke thought and evoke emotion in the most incredible way. I would like all of us to unmute our mics, or at least put up emojis welcoming the beautiful and wonderful author and spoken word artist, Miss Oreva. Thank you very much for being here. We really appreciate you coming. Thank you. Now, on to our third guest for today, Miss Chinyere. Her nickname is Tori Chuku. She is a recent graduate of law from from the Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Oka, Anambra State. She's usually called Torichuku, that's her name. And she's a growth oriented law student who is always in the pursuit of ways to further improve herself. She's an intellectual property law enthusiast with special interest in the entertainment and fashion industry. She's passionate about enlightening young creatives in the entertainment space on their rights and how they can be better enforced and protected. So she's going to be speaking from a very similar perspective to mine today. She does this through active participation in programs and volunteering with organizations geared towards the empowerment and protection of creatives. She enjoys watching movies, dancing, teaching, beading, and fashion designing and fashion illustration. I want us to say a beautiful welcome to Miss Torichuku, who is a wonderful intellectual property enthusiast. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I want to say welcome to all our speakers today. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for accepting our invitation. And with this, we're going to go directly into our topic for today, which is very simple. It is creative rights, who owns what. So we're going to start from we're going to be starting from Mr. Mufasa. Hi, Mr. Mufasa. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good
Yeah, good afternoon.
afternoon. Larry's Cafe.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you so much for having me.
thank you. So we're going to jump right in into this question. What rights do you think the average creative has? What rights do you think they should be aware of? That's for the creatives that are on this call and those that will be watching this later on.
Okay. Thank you very much. Actually, even me, I'm a novice at this thing, but I just came here with an open mind and like a bit of like oh, we're going to have a conversation. Do you
Yes.
understand? I did a
Yeah.
bit of research. Yeah, the first time I heard about artists having their own right and everything was in Lagos. Before I left Lagos to Abuja, I
Yeah.
went for a conference, and at the conference, somebody spoke about it, and it was very interesting to me. I think that was the first time I became aware about all these intellectual property, copyright. All I knew then was just, oh, let me take pictures, let me take images. But then, just attending those conferences then was very informative, and I think this is something similar, although virtual. We're having it virtually now.
Yeah.
And so back to your question, which is what rights? I think I checked and I saw copywriting, but I'll speak from a photographer perspective. Right, of
Yes.
we have licensing that you can give to your clients. But I feel like there's a level of work as a photographer. We believe that there's a level you should get to start doing some of these things, because people will not even like, what am I? It's just photos now. Why do I have to sign a contract? Why do I have to do? But like, I feel like I have to be more relatable to photographers or whoever. There's a level of work you have to have been putting out to be able to demand for
Yeah.
that kind of, because your customers will probably not take you seriously. I was having a conversation with the client yesterday, and she was like, I'm taking her through too much process, and she doesn't have that time. Do you
Mm.
understand? So, yeah, but like, to your question, I feel like copywriting is like one of the major thing a creative need. Like, yes, and
Thank.
some
Yeah.
licensing, yeah, all those, yeah, basically for me. Because I'm
Yeah.
not an expert at this, I'm just learning it as well. If I have questions, I reach out. I reach out to you. I
Yes.
reach out to different people. Yeah, so if I have questions, because this is not something yeah, so I'm just being more relatable from my own angle. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So basically, it's obvious that in as much as we have rights as creatives, it's very important to know that in exercising those particular rights, it's very possible that we may have issues with our clients, like Mr. Mufasa just pointed out. But this particular webinar is going to explain basically the gray areas between enforcing those rights and ensuring that you don't chase clients away. Because if you have rights and you cannot make money from the rights, then the rights are useless. Yeah. And we're going to move to Miss Oreva to talk to us about like what are the kinds of rights as a poet and an author that you usually enforce, and how do you enforce those rights when you are interacting with clients, customers, or people that you interact with, basically.
I think that it depends. So with writing, it there's varied ways of making income in a sense, right? So if I were to write a piece for someone, right? I have intellectual I have the not intellectual property, I have the right to the piece because all I'm doing if it's and I mean with performance poetry, right? So all I'm doing is performing it, but it's not yours to have. You can't print the words somewhere else without my permission. For any of that. I think first thing that comes to my head is contracts. I'm very serious about like let's sign a contract. What do you want from me? I want it to be stated out plainly. What would you need from me? Contact with like performance poetry, I might be like I might leave that a bit, but when it comes to writing, so I also write fiction novels and I also ghostwrite for people. And when it comes to other kinds of writing, then we're going to draw up a contract where this is what I'm doing for you. So in the case of ghostwriting, I'm writing things I miss in your name. How much of that is really your take, and how much of it is my rights? Am I selling off my rights to the story, or am I saying, oh, we're going to agree on a percentage royalty, or it's going to be one-off payments? Just the first thing on the top of my head is contract.
Yeah.
Um, there's also copyright. So WIPO, that's the World Intellectual Property Organization,
Yeah.
has a database in the sense that the first person who uploads online on cloud a piece of in quote content, and I mean creative stuff, right? Is the it registers them as like the first owner of the thing. So I have a poem, a written piece. Um, I can publish it somewhere and put my name and get maybe an ISBN or whatever, and just it's registered. Everybody knows. Everybody that sees that knows this belongs to Aurora. And then yeah, and then sometimes you do all these things, and people will still be weird and still your stuff. But yeah,
Yeah.
off the top of my head, those are the things I can think about.
That's very wonderful. So, I like the fact that we really spoke from like very practical perspectives as opposed to just generic ways of saying, oh, you have this right, you have that right. I guess at the basis of that, or should I say down to the barest minimum, that's basically the work of a lawyer, basically breaking down the theoreticals. But it's very important that we know how it actually works out in real life because, like I said, you cannot sacrifice money because you're trying to emphasize your rights. But at the same time, there's a certain amount of rights that you will not sacrifice. Like Miss Oreva mentioned that she always emphasizes contracts, and Ms. Mufasa mentioned that he takes his clients through a particular process, even though some of them may complain about it, but there has to be a balance. And so I would, in the absence of our next speaker, pending when she joins us, I will talk a little bit about the specific rights that you have as a creative. So, as a creative, you have a right to your brand image, and you also have the right to your content. So, basically, who you are, how you brand yourself, your publicity, your goodwill. That's one kind of right. And then the other kind of right is basically the right to the things that you create, the things that you create, the things that you make, basically your work. So I'll start from the brand. Your right to your brand is basically the right to brand identity, things like your name, your logo, your even down to your colors and how you present yourself. For instance, let's say at the beginning of all your let's say at the beginning of all your, let's say you have a podcast, you have a particular statement that you say just to welcome your guests, and it's the same in every single podcast. That in itself is already part of your brand identity. But basically your brand identity is mostly your logo, colors, and how you present yourself in public, and your brand identity can be protected. But before we go into the protection of your rights, basically I just want to emphasize the fact that your brand is something that you can protect, something that you have monopoly over. Nobody else has the right to use it. Nobody else has the right to pretend to be you by copying the way your brand appears. And nobody has the right to basically pass off or use your logo in any particular way or manner, even if it's not necessarily in the exact same industry, as long as there's going to be a confusion between your brand identity and that particular person, or if the person is using your brand to attract attention. For instance, even if you guys are in different industries, and but the person knows that anytime people see this particular colors associated with this particular animal or this particular logo, they are going to just assume that it's legit. So for things like that, that's basically your goodwill. If you protect your brand properly, if you assert your rights to your brand, whenever people cross that line of trying to pretend to be you or trying to use you to further their own product, brand, or business, you can actually take action. And when I say take action, I mean court. Yeah, but not necessarily the court. You can actually take action in other ways. You can demand, you can issue a cease and desist. You can demand for specific performances. You can demand for anything. But basically, that's basic one right that you have, rights to your brand identity. And the law that is very closely associated with that is the trademark law. I'm sure some of you guys have heard about the terminology trademark before. So basically, your trademark protects you from anybody using your brand identity. Then moving on to the content. So as a creative, you are going to create things. I mean, that's literally in the word creative. You're someone that creates things. So you have the monopoly, or should I say you have the exclusive rights to the things that you create. But of course, there are scenarios where somebody else will have the rights over it. Maybe, for instance, if it's a commissioned work and the person signs a contract with you and the contract states that it's a work for hire, the only right you have to that work is to be credited as the owner. You do not have the right to make any other decisions on that particular work. But when you just make the work for somebody and there's no contract that states that it's a work for hire, then it's yours. And you have what we like to call copyrights, like Mr. Mufasa has already mentioned earlier. You have copyright in it. But before we go deeply into this specific rights, I would like to ask this question. Because I've already raised up the issue of work for hire. In scenarios where people hire you to do specific things and they want to pay you off and you lose all access and right to that particular thing, how much is enough for you to sell a photograph? Like if you maybe take a very legendary picture of, let's say, a particular animal. Okay, no, you're a brand photographer, so I wouldn't use that. Let's say you take a particular picture of a very high net worth individual, a picture that you know that a biographer would like to have. Maybe a picture at, let's say, at a particular event. Maybe, let me use this, maybe like the maybe at an awards event, like maybe the Nobel Peace Prize or something like that. The person is taking the award and you get a very good photograph. I know that this photograph is the kind of brand photograph that it's on brand with the particular person. It's capturing a major achievement in that person's life. Anybody that wants to write a biography on this person is going to want that picture. How much is enough for you to sell the picture and never have any ownership rights over that picture again, Mr. Mufasa? How much do you think you have to be paid to give up your ownership rights to something like that?
Hey, God, help me with all this question. You also, I don't, how much do you mean that like I'm at an event and I shoot someone? Because I have like, there's a reason why I have a process. It's
Yeah.
because me, I don't like to overthink things.
Okay,
Since there's structure, I just,
this particular
yeah.
person has paid you as a photographer to photograph them because you're a brand photographer, right? And this is like a major event, a major landmark in their brand, in their career.
Okay.
And so they've asked you to take a picture of them while on stage. Now, this is not a work for hire scenario where you lose
Okay, okay.
all the rights to it because, you know, as a photographer, you own the copyright to your work. Of course, the person that is you're taking the picture has the right to use the picture, but for non-commercial purposes, you get. So if maybe a biographer, let's say this person dies, let's say 10 years later, let's say it's an elderly person, 10 years later, the person dies, and maybe someone that is writing about them because of how famous they are or how legendary they are comes to meet you for this photograph, and the person is saying, I don't want a license to have the right to use it, I want to be the only person that can use it in a biography, and so because of that I want you to sell me the picture. How much is enough for you to let go of your copyrights and all your rights to that particular picture?
Okay, I think I'll answer from the recent conversation on X, that's formerly Twitter,
Yeah.
about the Achebe's family.
Yes.
You know, they recently sold their story. Their, I don't know now, their father's, maybe I should say their
Yeah.
father's story.
Yeah, I'm not even
They
sure if
have,
it was even a sale or a license. I think it was a license though.
so I actually don't know, man. Too many English that day. I just know that they sold something
Yeah.
and they sold it very, what's it called, at a very high rate. And the reason, that was when I even discovered that a lot of people had not approached the family because it was expensive. Like whenever they
Yes.
sell, it's always like at a very high amount. And I think it boils down to understanding the value of a story, understanding the value of what you are creating. And that I started to really think about my life. That can't I just write something that will stand the test of time?
Yeah.
And I mean, one of the persons I listen to would always say something that you can actually create something that would, like, when you create something that you can create something that, I mean, that stands the test of time. And I feel like that's where creativity comes in. You see some artists, they drop an album, and at the time they drop the album, maybe a lot of people are not even paying attention to it then.
Yeah.
But then the album is still useful years after. So I feel like understanding the value of what I create first, I think it starts from, it's a mindset thing, and this thing, and that's why intellectual property is a thing of the mind.
Yeah.
You have to so for me to sell it, I have to first understand the value. If I don't understand the value, the person can say, "Let me give you 20K." I will just say, "Oh yeah." I'm happy that today I can gladly tell people that I'm not, like, they will offer money and I will say I'm not really interested in this work because I already understand myself. And like, I mean, that one is another story, sha. But like, to sell this one now, I will have to, like you said, I have to understand what I'm selling. I have to, whatever, where is it taking me? I can actually even give it for free if I see the gameplay, the bigger picture. But if I see that, oh, this thing, like the value, I feel like it just boils down to value and where I'm going and what I want to achieve from selling. So I might have to talk to a professional, to be honest, because recently recently I'm working on something which is like an investment, and people are saying don't give this, don't give that, just just don't give like like 50% of your brand, for example.
Yeah.
Don't give 20% of your brand. Just promise that, okay, annually there will be an annual return. So if I want to do something like that, honestly, me too, I'll speak to a professional, and let's look at this thing well, because that's what I do.
Okay.
Like, I'm not an expert artist, so I'll talk to someone and I'll decide. But I have to look at the big picture and what am I trying to achieve on. And yeah, basically that's it.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for your honesty. And thank you
Yeah.
for that answer, especially the way you said that you talk to a professional. But you still did not answer in terms of how much.
How much? How
uh,
much?
how much do you think is high? At least high enough for you to consider giving up your rights.
Ah,
Not temporary transfer, or that the right to still be with you. Not like you give them permission to
okay,
use.
totally
Like
from the.
you you
Okay, okay,
you won't be able to give it to somebody else again. You may be able to
okay.
also
You know
use the
what?
picture in any exhibition or
I
anything.
understand. I you know what? I spoke to so I have a coach. I have a photographer, a photography coach,
Yeah.
and recently I was asking her that, like, what's even, like, I asked this question, like, how much do you think I should give a picture out? Like, somebody wants to buy everything from me, wants to buy all the, like, raw file and everything. And the person said I should call an amount that I think the person cannot pay.
What if the person pays
I'm
it?
s- and they pay it now, but based on what I currently charge, I feel like it would just be in the millions, yeah. I don't know.
So
Based
when you say
on where I
millions,
am too.
dollars, pounds, euros, nairas, which one?
I mean, I will talk to a professional. I'll be honest, but it will be huge.
Yeah,
Something huge.
very
Yeah.
huge. All right. Thank you so much. I'd like to say welcome to our third speaker, Miss Story. Welcome, welcome. Please unmute your mic and say hello to us.
Hello, everyone. Good
Good
afternoon.
afternoon.
My
Thank you for
my
being
pleasure being
here.
here.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
ma'am.
Yeah. So our next question, or rather, it's still the same question, but this time around we're going to be addressing our next speaker, which is Miss Oreva. How much is enough for you to give up ownership of your book? Now, like I explained with Mr. Mufasa, I'm not talking about just giving a license for maybe a film adaptation, but saying that, okay, I no longer own this particular book. I cannot make decisions on who will use it, how it will be used in the future, and most importantly, I cannot make money from it again. after I've given you this license, like not even license, rather, after I've assigned ownership to you, because we know that assignment of ownership is different from temporary licensing. Now, when you say you're licensing something to somebody, it means that you still own the decision making rights. That's basically your number one creative right, which is decision making. But when you assign it to somebody, you are giving up everything. So let's say people want to adapt your stories or one of your novels into a film, and they want exclusive rights. Basically, they want an assignment of all your rights to that particular story. How much is enough for you to give it up? Or are you always going to insist on a license as opposed to a transfer?
I think it depends. I think that so I mentioned earlier that I ghostwrite, right? And so what
Yeah.
that means is I'm writing books for people. It's published in their name, sales go to them, whatever they want to do with the book, however they want to sell it, up to them. I Most of the ghostwriting I've done, to be fair, I haven't done the royalty split. I've done the one-off payment, right? So in that sense, and I'm going this way to explain that it varies, and this is the way that view I view what we call it creative work,
Yeah.
right? I believe, and this subject to interpretation, but I believe that with in terms of like writing stuff that I write, I believe that my mind is the ultimate guardian, right? And so I could always plant and paint new ideas. I don't think that a day will come that I would ever really fully run out of ideas or things to write off. A bit delusional, but it's a thing that I do believe, right? Now, that being said, if somebody were to approach me and to say, "Oh, I want you to ghostwrite for me," now I'm not writing this thing as River, I'm writing this thing as essay as Tim Larry writes.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this is what she wants and this is how, because when we want to ghostwrite, I'm asking you, what would you like to say? How would you like to say, right? And I'm writing it as what you would like. And so I don't feel, I mean, a writer always feels attached to their work. I don't feel as attached to the work as though if I were to write it for myself. I don't know if that makes any sense. And so,
Yeah.
in terms of that, how much is too much to charge for that? Typically, with ghostwriting, you charge per word.
Per word.
Um,
Wow.
yeah, you charge
Okay.
per word. Or I charge per word. So, say I'm charging 20 naira per word or 50 naira per word. And most novels, if I'm writing a novel for you, are looking at 39,000 to, you know, so it depends. You have these agreements. I do per word because and I don't want to take you through the mathematical things that brought me there, but I feel like um for everything that I write, every word counts. Like every word, if I'm writing a 6,000 word essay or an 8,000 word or just a chapbook of just 15,000 words, each word, do you understand, was
Yeah.
carefully edited and carefully designed to be that way. And so it's easier for me charging per word than charging like okay saying this is a a stable price that I'll give everybody because different projects will vary. But if I
Yeah.
charge per word, then depending on the amount of projects, when you know my price per word, and you know, okay, depending on the amount of projects you give me, this is how much you have an estimate of some sort in your mind, right?
Yeah.
Now that being said, to specific example that you asked about, so if a novel that I've already written, I wrote that for myself. So again, I said what I said in the beginning to explain so that when I say what I'm about to say, it doesn't sound somehow.
Okay.
But I'm very attached to my
Yeah.
work.
Okay.
And so if I write, if when I write, yes, I write for public consumption, but my ultimate goal in life is to write things that um to write for me first, and then public consumption. And so if it's a novel that I've written, it's very dear to me, something that I really, I spent my last novel, I spent 2 years on it, right? Working on that. So if a license, they're coming to license it into film, yeah, I don't think I'll ever sign it with the rights. Sorry, 1 minute, I'm at work and it's noisy.
That's
But I don't
alright.
think that I would ever fully sign away the rights to that. And this is a me thing, right? I would rather just the kind of person that I am, I'd rather even rewrite something for you. But if it's my work, then I'm going to have to see it through. Reason being, for example, if you want to turn that into film and I don't have creative rights, then it means you can mess up what I've written.
It's true.
and we do something, and then I see it on screen and I don't recognize my input in it. And then in that instance, it's no longer my story, it's now your thing. Which is, if that's what you want to have written something from the beginning, but if you're going to license my work, just personally, and this is my own personal um conviction, right? Where I'm just like, I would never really sign it off completely. What would most likely happen? We'll probably sign an agreement, maybe sharing 50-50, 60-40, 70-30, depending on how whoever is doing the most. Like if you're doing a film, I don't mind 70-30, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not even talking about the money. I'm talking about like in terms of I need to be able to see your script, read your script, and say, okay, this is similar to what I wrote, and
Yeah.
should be able to have creative license. Yes, I don't think I'd ever really. I don't think any money is worth it enough to sign up my license in that way. But I don't mind creating for people, but I would never really give out something that I have created. I don't know if that makes sense. There's a distinction in my head, but
Yeah.
yeah,
No, it does. It does make sense a lot actually. And I kind of fascinated by the fact that you have a way of distancing yourself from books that you wrote as a ghostwriter. And I'm thinking that okay, I actually have a follow-up question to the ghostwriting thing before we go back to the initial question, being that you mentioned that you charge per word. But what if it's a book that requires a lot more research than an average book? For instance, let's say it's a book about the war, maybe the civil war in Nigeria, or let's say about terrorist killing in the Middle Belt in Nigeria. So for books that require more research than an average book, will you still just charge per word? Considering that the value of those words are different from a random relatable, not random, but from like an average relatable novel
yeah,
that's
and I
like
hear
pure
you.
fiction.
So
Yeah.
there's two ways to go about it once again. Ideally, charging per word is just charging for the writings. When I say I'm charging per word, it means I'm going to have like you would have first consultation. What is your book about? What kind of book do you want? Just to see if it's something that I would even take in the first place.
Yeah.
And then you tell me stuff. And then when I figure out what you want, and then we're going to have a couple more interviews where all I'm doing is pretty much I'm there with a recorder. If it's over the phone, I'm recording the whole call so that I'm transcribing your thoughts into reality.
Yes.
Because again, it's your book, it's your idea, it's your brainchild. All I'm doing is the writing. And so when you're paying me for that, you're paying me for just the writing. So in a book that needs research, I want to believe the person has done their research and all they're doing is sending me their findings from the
Okay.
research. So that's one angle. You're
Yes.
sending me your findings. My work is writing. Now, in a case where you haven't done your findings and you haven't done your research, I'm going to charge you separately for research. That's now a
Oh.
different cost. Because
Okay.
again, what I'm charging you for is just to write. This is just for everywhere I write, this is this thing. And so if you haven't done your research, I can say things like, oh, if you haven't done I can do the research for you. I don't mind it. I love reading weird stuff online, but you're going to pay me for my time. Also,
Okay.
because obviously I work in 9 to 5, I'm doing so much. If I'm going to spend brain hours on that, you're going to pay me. That will not be per word. That will be, we can negotiate on that. We can, okay, this is how much is it, and then we can figure out a middle ground. For ultimately, now that I think about it, I've not really had people ask me to do like stuff that have serious research.
Oh
What
wow.
I've found mostly is memoirs, biographies, autobiographies. And so that's how I'm thinking about it in my head. That's how I think I would handle it. Research is separate from writing now. So
Yeah.
either you do the research or you get someone to do the research and send it to me. If you give me what I need, then I'm going to write what you need, and I'll write based on what my name is not on it. So if you do stupid research and I write it, it's never going to bounce back to me. But ultimately, even though my name
Yeah.
is not on it, I like doing the
Yes.
work, and I like it being that I like that once I'm associated with the thing, it's good. So you do your research. It's easy for me to fact check your research because I'm not pouring through material upon material upon material
Oh
by
yeah.
myself. Yeah. But if you're not doing research and I'm doing the research, then we're going to have to discuss the payment separately for that.
That's very interesting. That's yeah. Thank you that you actually brought up the issue of ghostwriting, because that is almost like another can of worms that we're about to open. But before we go into that, I'd like to invite our third speaker, Mr. Ichuku, to answer this question for us. Um, Ideally, what's like the simplest way to differentiate between giving a license and then assigning something assigning your creative work. So basically, as a creative who is in front of a contract, and there's the option to either assign your work and license your work. What's the simplest way to explain the difference to a layman, Mr. Uchiko? Hi, is she on the call with us? Let me see. Um, okay,
No,
okay, yeah. Did you hear my question?
no, no, come again. Network was splitting.
All right, sorry about that. So I asked that what's the basic way to explain the difference between an assignment of all creative rights and then a license of creative rights to a layman, or better still to a creative that's holding a particular contract. And I'm asking this because in as much as we advise creatives always always consult with professionals, always consult with their lawyers. There might be high tension moments where they may have an opportunity, and there's a very slim window for them to either accept or reject the opportunity. So for scenarios where they don't have immediate access to legal advice, how can they understand the difference between an assignment of their rights and a license of their creative rights?
So let's imagine, okay, I have a shoe. So what happens with the shoe is that I give you my shoe. I borrow you the shoe. Hi, Sammy. You can take this shoe and go for a party. Are you getting me? When you're done with the party, you return it to me. Remember, don't give my shoe to any other person without telling me. Do not sell my shoe. Do not let the shoe spin. I don't want the shoe to come back torn. And there's a difference between, hi, tell me, I'm actually use this shoe. Do it with such a split. So that's just it. For licenses, it's more of you giving the person,
Yeah.
be it label, user, whatever, investor, whoever the third party out there, the permission to use your work for a period of time. Maybe, okay, so you write your books and then you want the this company or label or whatever that want to use your book, a line or two, or even if it's the entire book, to add to their brand or their production or their company. They want to convert it into a music on its own, maybe a stage or track of it. So you give them a license, okay, take, use it. I'm not dashing you it, I'm not giving all of you. I'm more like saying, hi, you can use my book, you can use so you can use page one and two of my book to incorporate in your music, to incorporate in your film. Okay, then you state out the terms of the use. When you're done with it, return my book to me. I get to me. Then there's one of, okay, you're not completely assigned, like Alpha, this is take it, it's yours. I dash you, don't bring it back. So now
Mm-hmm.
bringing it to this our workspace is more of saying telling a producer or okay, let's use the word a producer or a label, whatever. Okay, this is my work. I have created it. You said you want to use it for your advert. No problem. Take, use it for your advert. But when you use it for your advert, you have to pay me so money to use it. It's like renting something. If you
Yes.
okay, I am into investing. So when we want to decorate for a wedding and we don't have this particular decoration, what we do is if we don't have money to go and buy it, we go to rent it. So we give the person so and so amount for us to be able to take that decor. So when I take the decorative work, I use it after paying you. Then I come back and I make sure it is in clean hands, depending on whatever agreement I have with whoever I hired it from. But there's a difference when I actually go to the market or I go to that same liquor person and buy it from the person. Meaning, after you do it for my work, I don't have to come back to do anything. I
Return
don't
it.
have to give you account of how I use your material. Whether it got torn, it got pieces, it's none of your business because why? I bought it. So assigning is like letting someone buy your rights to your creative work. Why licensing is like renting it out to somebody.
Yeah.
License you rent, assign you like buy that back, giving you it's your business. So the same thing applies to the creative sector, be it for a book, be it for a novel, be it for a film, whatever. These are the
Yeah.
creative sector. It comes with a little bit more, what I call it, complex because there are other terms that flows with it. If I buy, but this one is more of, okay. Assigning it is as easy, straightforward of I bought it, it's none of your business again, and there is now licensing. Okay, as the original creator of the work, you have the moral right to say, okay, this is my work. Don't use it for this. Fine, I'm giving you, like when I say I'm giving you my shoe, fine, I'm borrowing you this shoe. But do not carry my shoe and give it to another. Only you and you should wear my shoe. When you wear my shoe, please bring it back, wash the shoe. So it's the same thing. So you just furnish it up whatever terms and conditions that you feel is both favorable to both parties.
Okay. Thank you
That's
so
all.
much.
I hope I understand.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much. Actually, wow. Thank you for saying that. So basically, she said that just to reiterate the main thing she said, the fact that licensing is basically renting out your stuff and getting it back eventually, whether renting it for a particular purpose or renting it out for a particular period of time. But an assignment is selling it and never getting it back. So whenever you are approached with any kind of contract, you need to be very careful of those words. If you see anything like assign or transfer, then you should be thinking, okay, this might mean I will lose all my rights because I'm selling it and never getting it back. But if you see something like license, then you know that okay, you are giving out specific rights, but you still be the owner. However, you also still need to be very careful of, okay, now that if I'm giving out specific rights, what rights am I giving out? Is it exclusive in the sense that I cannot give out the same right to this other person? Does the time frame that I'm giving to the person A have to expire before I can give that same right to person B? For instance, let's say like the Chinua Achebe Things Fall About Part book that Mr. Mufasa raised earlier. So maybe if his family gave the rights to the book to a particular filmmaker, let's say to make a series for like 5 years, can they give it to another filmmaker that wants to make a cartoon out of it for for a period of time that is within that 5 years, or do they have to wait for that initial 5 years to expire first? So for details like this is where you think about this term licensing, and you have to be very careful, and that's why you need to get professional advice. But it's a very good thing for you to be able to identify and know the meanings of these words ahead of time, because like I said earlier, it is possible that you may not have enough time to know if you are giving up your rights, or rather have enough time to be able to reach out to a lawyer enough to know the nature of rights that you're giving up, whether temporarily or permanently. And that will bring us to the next issue, which is author's rights. Now I'm sure that we have heard it a few times while the speakers were discussing and speaking earlier, when also especially when Mr. Ichuku mentioned author's moral rights. And I believe that Miss Erva also mentioned something related to that. So there's a particular term called author's moral rights, basically your moral right. And it's called author's moral rights because it's a right that only the original creator can have. Meaning that if you sell your work to somebody else, the person does not have author's moral rights because the person didn't create it. The person is just the new owner. So as the author of a particular work, or the initial creative that made that particular work, you have something called moral rights. These rights exist whether or not you sell your work. So meaning that if you sell your work, what you're selling is the decision making rights. However, there are specific rights that cannot be sold. It's possible for you to ignore it, or it's possible for you to never assert it. It's possible for you to never exercise those rights. In fact, it's possible for you to give it to somebody and then never come back to collect it. However, you cannot legally transfer ownership of those particular rights. That's the moral rights. And moral rights is basically the right to be credited as the author. Now, in as much as we know, like Ms. Oreva mentioned, we know that ghost writers exist, ghost producers exist, and basically ghost creatives exist that create work on behalf of other people and don't get credited for the work. they can insist on their work being credited. However, on their own, they can decide that they don't want to get credit for the work. I mean, nobody can force anybody. The law actually even makes provision for anonymous creatives. So you can decide to be anonymous, you can decide to be a ghostwriter. However, the law says that nobody can force you to be a ghostwriter, in the sense that you can come out and say, Nami writer, and no, and the law is not going to you cannot be attacked. No contract can be used against you, saying that why did you say you were the writer, even when you've already signed that you're never going to speak about it. You still have that right. However, that's why your contracts have to state clearly that you have the right to come back and announce to the world that you are the owner, that you're the one that wrote that particular book, you're the one that took the particular photos, so that the other person you're selling it to does not get blindsided. However, I'm sure out of good faith, we will not promise people that we'll go create things for them and then go ahead to embarrass them. So that's beside the point. But the major thing about your moral rights is that there's a right to having your work not being used in a way you do not intend. So for instance, I'll use photography, something that Mr. Mufasa is involved in, which is the issue of imagine taking a picture and somebody else photoshops nude pictures into it. Let's say you take a brand picture, because Mr. Mufasa is a brand photographer, and let's say the brand photos are of a particular client that is in an office. Let's say she is a nurse and it's her wearing her nurse uniform and everything. But imagine somebody else buys this particular picture from him. He has no problem selling. The person pays the correct price and he lets go of the ownership of it. However, if tomorrow he wakes up and sees that that particular picture has been photoshopped by the new owner, and then there are nude and pornographic versions of that picture everywhere, especially maybe around Halloween, and it's not looking like, okay, this nurse is a pornographic sort of nurse in a particular pornographic setting, and basically things that will ruin Mr. Mufasa's image, his reputation. And even if it's not connected to him as the author, like even if it's not spelled out that he's the original photographer of that particular picture, the fact that it is ruining the work and it is putting the work in a light that he did not intend to create that particular work, he can actually enforce his moral rights. He actually has rights against that particular situation. But I actually want to ask Mr. Mufasa, I actually want to direct this question at you. If you're in a situation where somebody should violate your moral rights, somebody should do something that makes your work look a particular way that you never intended that work to do. Let's say, for instance, the work was created in a particular setting, and then someone takes it out of that particular setting and gives the work a bad name, or maybe gives the work should I say, like, political meaning that you do not intend, or even like anti-patriotic meanings to that particular image. It's photoshopped in any way that you do not intend that particular picture to be. Is there any particular measure that you take to prevent this? You remember that you said that you have like a process for onboarding clients and even like receiving clients before you receive payments from them. Is there a process to ensure that they don't misuse your work in any way? That's if you're selling it to them. But even if you're not selling it to them and it's just a regular booking and commission and them getting licensed to use it, is there any particular way that you emphasize, let's say, your terms of service, saying that you cannot use these pictures in a derogatory manner? Do you make any such things, or do you intend to?
Yes, so like I said earlier, thank you very much once again for that question.
Thank
Like I
you.
said earlier, I have a process, and the process includes sending client a contract. Yes, so in the contract, so maybe I should just quickly run through my process for people
Yeah,
that what's
thank
this
you very
process
much.
thing. Yeah, so for me, I'm not like I'm not I don't take bookings in my DMs. So on my bio there's a link to a website where you click the link and you give me information of what you want to do, and then you in the form there's a place where you say, okay, what time can I call you? So you give me a time to call you, then I call the client. While talking to the client, I already know if like we are lying, if this is even someone I want to work with. So it's on the call that I will run the client through my process. Even before the call, I will have sent an email that sends like a guide of how I work and my process. Even in the guide, there's an idea of how much I charge of my rates. So on the call, it's just for us to like connect basically. And when we talk on the call and we both agree that we want to move forward, I send another email that includes a questionnaire and a contract. a, a questionnaire. Sorry, first a questionnaire. So the question, because I shoot brands, so I need to understand what the person's goal, and then that's where I'll now decide. Oh, this is the kind of shoot that will make sense. So when they fill that questionnaire, filling that questionnaire already shows me this person is serious. This person wants to go forward with me. So that questionnaire now, after the questionnaire, then we now get to signing a contract, planning their photo shoot, sending the invoice and the contract, sending an invoice and a contract. So on the contract, I think that's where all of this process is included, or what they can use, how they can use the images, people they can give the images to, if they need to come back to me for permission before they can use the image in any way aside from just posting and all of that. Yeah, so that's what the contract includes. Just basic agreement here and there. Like, so that's my process basically. And I think that just keeps me away from, creatives go through a lot of mental health issues. And since I have
Yes.
since I put the structure in place,
Mm.
but even to burn out is a problem, especially I want to burn out on my own accord. Like there are jobs I don't take. There are some DMs I don't even reply. I told somebody yesterday I saw your DM for like 3 hours before I replied it. Because I was looking at the person, I was like, will I work? Because we didn't eventually work. And trust me, at the end of that call, that person told me, thank you very much. Because I was able to educate the person on why I would not have even replied. But I replied because I'm like, let me just be humble. Because, and at the end of the day, we spoke and I was able to help this person. This person just came into Abuja looking for spaces to shoot. I was able to like tell the person, like, this is the reason why things are done this way, this way, this way. And she was like, because she was like, Abuja, everybody, the money is high. This one, I'm like, even me, I came to Abuja 2019. I worked, I sweat before I can do something. Yeah, you have
Yeah.
to follow the process. So that's the way. So that's it. I hope this was
Yes.
helpful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for re-emphasizing the importance of a contract. I'm sure we've heard from our speakers already. Both of the our two first speakers have emphasized the need of a contract more than once. So can already tell that in everything that we do, get a contract. In everything that you do, make sure that your contract is actually written. Don't just make assumptions. Don't just say, oh, this is how industry standard is. Oh, this is how I do things. You actually need to have things written out to be spelled out for you to now actually, yes, know that this is what you're going to do. This is how you're going to do. These are the rules that are guiding the engagement of my services or this particular product that I'm going to be giving out, whether temporarily or permanently. And this brings us to our next question. When is the right time to introduce contracts? I know, Mr. Mufasa, you introduce contracts straight away. But are you when were you able to start this process? Like, at what stage of your journey? Because we know you have been in photography since 2017, right? At what stage of your journey could you start introducing contracts that you were not chasing away customers? Of course, we understand from what you've just said now that you do not accept just any kinds of clients. At what stage do you actually start introducing contracts in a way that it will not chase away the people that you actually want, especially for people that are just starting out, that have not made a name for themselves yet? And yes, at what stage should they introduce the idea of contracts?
Thank you very much. Uh, so um, the truth is, we go to a lot of conferences because me, I attend a lot of conferences when I started out, and you see some people they will just talk and talk. The thing is just sweet, and maybe they are not even following that process. But me, I said the moment I'm given the opportunity to start speaking, I will
Yeah.
try to be as relatable, as honest as possible because I went through stuff, my sister. I like
Wow.
so the thing is when I've always liked the idea of structure. I've always liked the idea, but then I needed to be honest with myself. Am I doing the kind of work that we demand that I'm even sending? Like, is my work that great? Is that my work that exceptional? I feel like one of the reasons why I went to the route brand photography because I wanted to work with serious minded people. And they are the kind of people I feel like if I send a contract to, it's just easy for them to understand
Yeah.
why I'm sending a contract. So I was very intentional about my niche from the start because I just wanted to work with serious-minded people. So I don't know how it works. In fact, I'm even beginning to forget about how other photographers work because I'm so into what I'm doing. Like I want to get to the highest level, the peak of it. So everything I'm doing, anything I'm saying, I only talk from my own what's it called, my own little corner. Although I pay attention to a lot of tech companies, a lot of startups. So that's another place I pay attention to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like it is for writers now, for other people now, creatives now, it is important that you introduce from the start because I don't know everything. So it's so dicey with the creative space here. You just have to be, you have to be self-aware too. Self-awareness is key. Like what to do at the right. I don't know. Do you understand? For me now, because of my process, it is easier for me to. So that's not the first thing I send to a client. The first thing I send to a client is an email, even welcoming them. You get the second thing
Okay.
I do is connecting with them. So when I connect with them, in their head, we're already friends. So the next stage is now, oh, we're now friends. I can now send a contract just to like, this is just something, do you understand? Just to
Yes.
that ground level. It's not like it's the first thing I'll now send to you when you're trying to book. The person will
Oh.
just walk away and say, what are you doing? You are not serious. And I
Okay.
need money too. So I take the process one at a time. Yes.
Yeah.
But I've gotten to the level where I've done it so much that I know when to do it. Sometimes I even hold back. Sometimes I can't even do it after I finish working with the person. So just
Yeah.
for future reference, I'm sorry, Mao. Just to now, like I just finished reading a book called Vantage, written by
Mm-hmm.
one of the biggest investors in the country as regards startups, Olumide Soyombo. And
Yeah.
he explained that working in Nigerian culture is different from, do you understand? He was able to explain how he's been able to navigate the Nigerian ecosystem. So when you come and you listen to some people and they're just saying things that it doesn't really work here. So you have to be very careful and use your sense. That's the way me I see things. Oh,
Yeah, especially with
thank you.
older people though.
Hmm.
When do you bring up the idea of a contract? For instance, an older person that goes to your Instagram, they may not really understand how to use a link. When you say bio, they'll say where. And I'm talking someone like 50 plus. Because let's be very honest, not everybody has a personal assistant to make all these bookings for them. Let's say they see your photography on your post on Facebook, because they most likely be on Facebook than even Instagram. And then they
Yeah.
reach out to send you a message. How do you navigate that for someone that is not tech savvy?
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. I feel like we're going to my zone now. All this law. I'm not a lawyer. So as a
Yeah.
brand photographer, I feel like one thing you have to be versed with is marketing and photography, which is like,
Yeah.
so recently I was preparing a pitch deck and I was writing there. I said, at Mr. Mufasa, art meets strategy. There's a strategy to everything I do. So if I already know my niche, I already know my market, I know my ideal clients, I know what they look like, I know how they speak,
Yes.
I know what they understand. My ideal client they know how to use technology.
Okay.
Do you understand? So if
Mm-hmm.
if I want to shoot, so if somebody of a 50 years come now, I know that this is not really my ideal client, but they can still, maybe they understand the value. I might use another approach to
Okay.
talk
So
to
you would
them.
tailor something for them.
Yeah, so I'm saying, for example, Ty Bello now,
Mm.
that's a niche. So that's even so if she comes here now, she explains that process. You see that it is tailored to people of 50s, 60s,
Yes.
70s. She
Yes.
has even considered the relatives that might be reaching out.
Mm.
Do you understand? So there has to be a strategy. So for example, I didn't just come and say I'm a brand photographer. There is a value proposition on my bio. If you go there, you see
Yes.
something like tell better stories. You see something
Yeah.
like impactful images for. So it's not just to come and be creative. There has to be a why behind what you are doing first before you now start even layering all the techniques. You get it is your why that informs how you move. So
Yes.
my why informs, for example, me, I'm the kind of person where I want people to be inspired by whatever I do. So
Mm-hmm.
even the idea of not accepting bookings through the DM is a way to tell people that we can do this in this country. Everything does not have to be jaga jaga. We can have a process. I'm serious. Immediately I talk to a client, she's saying my
Yeah.
process is too hard. At the
Yeah.
back of my mind, I've already walked away. So whatever the client says is not really affecting me because I walked away. And the most powerful person on the negotiation table is someone that can walk away.
It's true. You're right.
So like there's so much education to do before we can even arrive at intellectual property. There's so much back work that people need to do, like that we need to do as creatives as well. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. That was heavy. Oh. You indirectly gave us small trade secrets. Thank you very much. That felt like a photography masterclass. But I like the fact that you kind of generalized it. Thank you so much. I like the fact that I kind of generalized it in the sense emphasizing the fact that things can work in this country, and I was kind of thinking as you were speaking that okay, this is not something that is just for the photography sub industry under the creative economy, right? It's something that can affect every other industry in the creative economy. So we are thinking about poetry, we are thinking film, we're thinking music. Have a process. Don't We're not saying don't be approachable, but create a process whereby when you introduce things like contracts, when you have terms of service, people don't take it it's not how I put it, even it's easy for them to accept.
Sorry, Auntie Tim.
Oh
Sorry
yeah,
to
yeah, go on.
interrupt you. So I think the first thing, like, yeah, what you said is very amazing. Like the first thing is that excellent, like that
Oh
spirit of
yeah.
excellence. Spirit of excellence. People will listen. If you don't have a excellent, you don't have excellent one, you have to book process. Ogbeni, next thing, next.
Yeah.
So like that excellent work first, emphasize. Like you can even take a year to do excellent work first and now layer it with a process. They will listen, they will obey. I've experienced it that people actually listen in this country when you have an excellent process and an excellent work portfolio to
Okay.
back it up. Yeah, thank you. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, thank you. But before you go, can you explain the like the process of what's it called? Okay, I will. But before we go there, thank you for the question. Please, if you have any questions, everyone, you can put it in the comment section. I'll get to everything very soon. So, Mr. Mufasa, you mentioned that you have to be excellent at what you do to be able to insist on those processes, insist on contracts and the rest. And you mentioned like a 1 year period. Um, because unfortunately excellence is a little bit subjective because people think they're excellent at different stages, not necessarily because they are delusional, but they've probably not seen something better, and so they just assume that okay, the stage they are at that particular moment in time is awesome, and then it's until they meet something better that they're realizing that oh, mine is actually small. So in the minds of different people, they think they're excellent at different stages, right? How long do you think you should have built like your portfolio before you can insist, especially with having in mind that some people work as employees for other people, right? So it's like, okay, how long do you have to work for others before you can set out to create your own brand, create your own portfolio, and then start insisting on specific processes? Like, can you, from the perspective of a photographer, how long?
Thank you very much. Honestly, you can start photography today and ensure a process tomorrow.
Uh,
So when
okay.
when I've taken a lot of coaches, when I've spoken to a lot of coaches, like the first thing that shocked me when I first got a photography coach was that the first thing they teach you is not photography. The first thing they teach you is not the first thing they do to you is your mindset.
Okay.
So when the mindset, it's mindset work. Once the mindset work is in place, you don't even have to wait, like I said, 1 year creating a portfolio. It's just that it takes time. You know now, but it takes time for your mindset to adjust. If somebody is telling you that you can charge 10 million, it takes time for your mind to adjust to that level. So that's why I even mentioned a particular time. Maybe you give yourself 1 year. So I'm saying you have to work the mindset. So for some persons now, you're talking to some creative. When you're telling them put contract, they might not even get it because their mindset is not there. For somebody like me, if you tell me I know, I understand why. If you tell me to get a website, I know why I need a website. But you
Yes.
are talking to somebody when their mind, so mind, it's a mindset work. So even if you start to, if your mindset, I've seen people that started photography, like that met me at photography and they were making money quickly. What I was able to tell myself the truth that oh well, this person's mind and my mind is not, this person is on another like they don't even have to have the same skill. I'm even better at them at that level then.
Mm.
But they were charging more, 1 million. Like this person has never started 6 months. Do you
Wow.
understand? The thing shocked me. So I needed to go and work on my mind. It was one of the reasons why I left Lagos I came to Abuja because it was a calmer environment. I needed to think, and that was why I came to Abuja, honestly,
Abuja
because I needed
PR.
to work on my mind. I'm just saying, because when people ask me why did I leave Lagos, I mean I needed my mind to work where I needed a calmer environment, and I can't afford to travel yet then, so I came to a calmer place.
And you have stayed.
Thank God.
All right, thank you so much. So I think we can start taking questions before we go back to some of the things that we were discussing in creative rights. We'll take questions first, and then we'll go back before we round up. Okay, let me hear from you, Chimka. Then I'll go to Olabode's question. You can unmute your mic.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Chimka. I I did not get an opportunity to introduce myself when we started because of some issues, right?
All
Okay,
right.
so I am into entertainment industry, specifically film acting, filmmaking, and yeah, basically, and hosting of events too, I should add. Yeah. So my first question, sorry, I have from the whole event, I have some questions. My first
Okay.
question I'm going to ask on behalf of my friend who I invited, but she had to leave recently for a meeting. She wanted to ask Mr. Mufasa where he got the book Vantage by Olumide Shoyombo. So if you can just drop it in the comments, that would be fine. Um then my next question is, as an actress given a contract on a film set without any prior knowledge of law or anything or rights, like I'm just giving a contract. Let's say I was not a main character or I was a last minute addition to the movie set, and after shooting, I'm just giving a contract that I know nothing about. I don't even understand the terminologies and that contract. What do I do then? Right? Because I cannot go and start browsing.
Okay, it's true because you're already on set.
Yes.
Okay. Permits me to double back a bit in the sense that when I speak to my clients, the first thing I try to educate them on is to avoid such situations, that such ambushes. And the way to avoid such ambushes in the first place is to request for such documents ahead of time. Because many times we just wait for the producers to be the proactive ones. Do you get? So
Yeah.
it's a good thing if you actually insist on certain things. Now, I have a few actors. Now I think about it, I work more with filmmakers than actually actors themselves. But the few actors that
Okay.
I work with, what I prepared for all of them actually is a terms of service document. So whatever anybody reaches out to them to act, they give out the terms of service document. Now, the terms of service document is basically where their fees, everything is going to be inside. Now, the reason I package my actors like that is because I tell them to treat themselves like freelancers. You get, it's not like you don't necessarily have a company as an actor. You are the only product in your business, in your brand. And so the
Yeah.
best way to treat yourself is like a freelancer. You are not an employee of the director or of the producer. And as a
Yeah.
freelancer, you don't wait until it's time to start the work before you discuss the terms of the work. So
Okay.
normally what happens is that before anybody even approaches you, you already have your terms of service. Now, the actors I work with, of course, I will advise that you still speak to a your own lawyer, your own legal professional. But the actors that I work with in my law firm, what we do is we give them like a one-page terms of service. The reason why our terms of service is that short is because we realize that whenever people see documents that have multiple pages, especially when you are having the first conversation with them, they usually get thrown away. Especially, you are the one that auditioned for this role. Why do you
Yeah.
have plenty rules and regulations? And in terms of services, basically say that, see, this is my time. This is the time that I'm available to work. Because let's be very honest, not everybody will provide good accommodation. Not everybody will provide good feeding, logistics, and the rest. You get. So it's like, okay, this
Yes.
is where I live. This is, and if I won't be coming from home and you're going to provide accommodation, fine, let me know before. Basically, it's like the way somebody will book an artist to sing at the concert is the same way I insist that my actor clients treat themselves. Now, by the time you've branded yourself in that particular way, you create expectations of the other person. Now, like I said, permit me to go take a step back. But when you are in a situation where you are already where you are, there's something you cannot turn back the hands of time. You are stuck in the particular place. I would ask you to focus on places where they are talking about the use of your face. So there's this thing called usage right, but unfortunately most contracts do not title the exact things that they mean under. So for instance, the title and the content of that paragraph may not be the same thing. You may
Mm.
Google the title, like you may see usage right and Google it, and you see one particular meaning, and then you just assume, okay, that's what all these plenty terminologies are, and then you sign. But the truth is, many times they don't always mean the same thing, and normally contracts have what you call the definitions clause or interpretation. Most times you see it on the first or second or last page of the contract. It's never in the middle. It's usually first, second, or last page. You go and check there. It's that particular paragraph or clause usually explains the meanings of specific words within the way it is used in that contract. Because the fact that a word means something in a dictionary does not mean that's how somebody's going to use it in a contract. You get?
Okay.
That's one
Yeah.
thing. But very importantly, look out for how your stuff is going to be used. Do you get? And if they are going to insist that you show up for premieres, you ask for extra money. If they're going to insist that you go on media tours and rounds, you also request for extra money. Now, not necessarily just upfront payments, but ensure that they're going to take care of your logistics if you are going to be going for an interview. It's not you that will pay your transport fare or that will buy fuel for your own car to go to an interview that they organized in, maybe in a state that is not, maybe for instance you stay in let's say you stay in Kogi state, and then they arrange for an interview in Kaduna, and you're the one that will transport yourself there and come back to Kaduna, and the money that they paid you for the film has already finished. Do you get? So you have to be sure about things like that. And so basically, when you are looking at a contract and you don't have time to look at the meaning and to check it up online or call anybody, I mean, it's very possible that you may not even have a lawyer, or if you do, they are not reachable. They are probably in court. Like me, anytime I'm in court, I let my clients know, or I put a message, or I give my phone to like an assistant to somebody to inform anybody that sends me a message or calls me that I am not available or I am appearing in court at a particular time. Or maybe the person's number is not going through. Let's say that you guys are shooting in a remote area and there's no network there. Anything can happen. It's not necessarily only a result of irresponsibility, carelessness. Circumstances can actually happen, and when you are in such circumstances, look out for the interpretation or definition clause in your contract, which will explain the meanings of certain words, and look for your responsibilities. Are you going to be just acting? Are you going to act whenever the director calls, which is AKA for only God knows? Do you get? Are they specifying how much work you are doing? Just find out how much your responsibility is, and go and talk to the director or maybe an assistant director, an AD or somebody, to say, okay, what does this mean? Do you get? And anytime you reach out to anybody and ask for clarification, make sure it's recorded. I know that it sounds tricky and stuff, but this is something. This is like medicine after death. Not even after death, but like this is like almost like damage control. Because ideally you should have talked to a lawyer, but if you cannot, make sure that anytime they are confirming the meaning of the document in front of you, be like, oh, sorry sir, I really don't understand this contract, I just want you to help me explain. No, I'm not saying I will not sign it, but I just want you to explain. As they are talking, be recording it. The reason that is important is because if anything goes wrong, the way the court will interpret it will not necessarily be based on what is written, but based on what the person explained was written. Do you understand?
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
intention is very important in the court of law. But if there's no recording of the person saying that, oh, it's just a temporary something, meanwhile they wrote that it was permanent. If there's no way to prove it, then you're going to have problems. So basically, I don't know if I was able to answer the question well.
Yes.
But
Yes. Perfect.
regardless, thank you. But regardless, please get a lawyer. You don't
Alright.
you don't necessarily have to have a lawyer that you pay every year. Like for me, most of my clients pay me per year. That's an annual retainer where they pay me once a year, and then I do everything for them within that year, and then they renew it, sort of like a subscription.
Yeah.
It's actually still possible for you to reach out to a lawyer who will get paid only when you get paid on your work. That's like a commission. So you don't necessarily have to feel intimidated by saying, oh, I can't afford a lawyer. Do you understand? Yes, lawyers can go beyond certain percentage out of ethical concerns, and there are many lawyers that would gladly work for creatives for free. I know that one for a fact. So yes, but make sure that it's an entertainment or IP lawyer. If you go and meet a land lawyer, They will go and do power of attorney on top of your head.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Thank
All
you.
right, so my
Oh, you
second
have another
question
question.
would,
All right.
yes, I do. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, so as a producer, right, working with investors and executive producers as well, based on the theme of this event, if I should call it that,
Yeah.
what do I own? Because these executive producers are bringing in the money, and I am basically sourcing for that money. Let's say, for example, now I'm producing a theater performance, which by God's grace I should be doing soon. Yeah. And I'm looking for thank you. And I'm looking for investors, or I have investors. And these people are, some of them just want to be partners, some of them want to be recognized as executive producers. How much, or how much rights do they own because they are bringing in the money, and how much rights do I own to this event, to this project, since I'm the producer?
Okay. The issue with such scenarios is that there is no should I say template, sort of. You have to be careful what you're signing. So what I usually recommend is that ensure that you give out more money than you give out rights. So what I mean is you can say for the next 5 years you own up to 50% of any revenue that this film generates. However, I will still own the film, meaning that you have the decision making right to say, okay, I'm entering into a contract, a 5 year contract with Netflix. After that 5 years expires, I'm going to do enter into a contract for pay per view, maybe on planes, or I'm going to do it maybe in cinemas, or I'm going to do a cinema run for one, maybe 6 months. After 6 months, I'll go on Netflix. After Netflix, I'll go on Amazon. After Amazon, I'll you should be able to have the right to make those plenty decisions. And the only thing you should
Mm,
give to them should be revenue. That is money you get. But
okay.
all your rights, your decision
Mhm,
making rights, hold them like
mhm.
this, hold it, because the truth is that a lot of creative work don't have like time limits as to when they're going to
Yeah,
keep making money for you. So what
yeah.
many executive production contracts actually provide is that, let's say they invest $1 million into your film.
Mhm,
After you've repaid that $1 million to them, they are going to get maybe 20% of, like, maybe for instance it's a 50-50 share. After the film has generated up to $1 million for as 50% for them, that's maybe $2 million, and they've already gotten back their initial investment, they will now have like maybe permanent 10% run for the rest. But that decision making, it should be with
yeah.
you. However, what executive producers usually use to protect themselves is to insist that if after a certain number of years the decisions you've made to monetize the film has not yet brought in a certain amount of money, they can remove that decision making rights from you temporarily. They can
Mm,
monetize the film for a particular period of years. And after they've gotten their money back, or after that particular period has elapsed, the right to go back to you. That way, after some time, they would not even be receiving money from that particular film, and you can own it. And someone else can decide that they want to. Let's Because there are some films that after 20 years, someone will just wake up and say, oh, they want to do a French version of the film. And that time,
mm,
somebody else will wake up and say, oh, they want to do a Chinese version, they want to do a Korean version. Anything can happen. There are many
yeah.
ways you can monetize, or maybe they can decide that they want to adapt it into a manga comic book, or they want to turn
Yeah.
it into an anime. Anything can happen, and because of that, it's very important that when you are entering into any agreements, let there be time limits on everything. Every single thing should have time limits, and it should be easier for you to give out money than it should be easier for you to give out your rights. I don't
All
know if I
right.
answered that.
Yes. Thank you very much.
You're
Thank you very much.
welcome. So I know someone else raised his hand, but I want to answer the question in the chat box before we move back to that. Um the question is, could you please explain the distinction between copyright and patent in the context of software or applications? Actually, I would like to hear from our speaker, Miss Tori Chuku, before I continue with that. Can you attempt to answer this question, Ma? The difference between copyright
Can
and
I hear the
patent.
question?
Okay, please
Please, can
explain.
you come again with the question?
Okay, please explain the difference between copyright and patent in the context of software or applications.
Copyright and patent. So we already
Yes.
know that copyright is not like the right to use a work and all of that. Then patent is like a new invention. So applying it to the area of software and applications. So let me see. So okay, let's go to software. Copyright. For example, you know you have like a website and all of that, or you have an app or any of those techy stuff. I'm not doing tech area, but they have like a particular write-up that comes up with them.
Mm.
Like call it a design of the whole. They have the way they look like. I don't know if you get me.
Yeah.
All like
Like designs.
they have the way they look like. They have write-up that comes up with them. They
Mm-hmm.
have signs that that just pop up on if you go to a website or whatever, that pop up on them. I think those can fall under like copyright and all of them. Then patents will now be more of, okay. So we have a website that does before I don't think there was nothing like mobile bank and everything. So it's not like that's a patent. It's a new addition
Invention.
to what they call it, yeah, invention to the tech space. So that one is there. Along the line, there's this new key model or like call it software system that comes to like aid these techie systems. So let's imagine, okay, now the first instance when mobile banking came in, you could only receive alerts from it. Then
Yeah.
along the line, someone now comes and invented a way whereby you could also send money. So that the first one that came up was okay, you are receiving alert. But the new patent that was added to that addition was now you are able to actually now come and receive what they call it to now transfer money. So like even if there is already an existing model in whatever tech space or but a new design or pattern or software or whatever that comes in and now lets you do something different to that already existing model
Yeah.
or something unique makes it a patent.
Okay.
So how do I put it? I hope you get like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I actually do.
well since I'm not really in Texas, so I'm trying to look for a way to explain it to like those that are not really to in a layman's sense. It's like
Yeah.
having what do I call it? Oh like now. It's like having a house, I get to me. So this house is maybe say your website or your computer or everything. So we already know that fine, everybody comes to the house through the door. I get to
Yes.
me. That alone is a patent on its own. It is a new novel, a house and coming into the door is a new novel invention. So tomorrow someone now comes and now creates a window and we now find out, oh my god, with the window you can actually receive breeze and for the seeds around us you can actually fly through the window into somebody's house. So now that addition of a window is another new patent that was really added to the already existing original one, which is the house and all of that.
Okay. But I think the major issue is the difference between patent and copyright, not necessarily the different types of patent.
Okay. Then
Yeah.
now that's for patent. When you now go to copyright will not be more let's say copyright in house direction. Okay. The design of the house, I get to me.
Okay, so the
Some
design
houses
of the
look like
app.
pineapples, some houses look like what do you call it? Like houses take different shapes. So that could be copyright and you could somehow also fall under patent. But copyright in all these websites are mostly like the words that comes up with them. So maybe you have like a Okafor's house. Get me in a very, very like, creative style and all that. Not, it's a different thing from trademark, like in a very, very creative style. Okay, now imagine you have a website that writes books or uploads write-ups on it. I get me. So
Mm.
the things they write there, especially if it is the owners of the website that write it themselves, they have to copyright those write-ups on that website. I don't know if you get me.
Yes, I do. Thank you so much. So, just just for sake of re-emphasis, you said the difference between copyright and patent in the context of software or applications. So, Ms. Chorichuku just explained the concept of patent especially, and then how it relates to copyright. So what I'll explain is in the context of software applications very specifically. So basically, the law says that copyright is basically the law that protects your literary, artistic, musical works. The law recognizes software coding, that's your computer program, your coding, recognizes it as copyright. So basically, if your codes are unique in the sense that you have a specific arrangement of your codes that bring a particular, that creates a particular software or that creates a particular application, those codes are copyrightable and you own them. And it's very interesting to know that you can own copyrights for up to 70 years after the death of the person that owns it. So it's not just you owning it. So basically, like what we mentioned about Chinua Achebe, who, even though he has passed on, his family can still take advantage of his work and be able to license it because they have copyright in it, because the copyright exists for up to 70 years from the year he died. So meaning your entire lifetime and then 70 years afterwards. So that's basic. Copyright basically protects your software, not software, sorry, your coding arrangement. And then patents, like Miss Tori Chuku mentioned, protects your inventions. If you invent something new, something scientific or technological in nature. So you have another question, or is it a follow-up? Please unmute yourself.
Okay. I don't know. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can.
Thank you so much for the answer and everything. If I need any of this service, do we have uh, maybe a vendor that can do that?
Okay, yes, you can actually send us an email. Just send us an email at info@lariscafe.org and we'll attend to you
Okay.
immediately. Yes.
And then because with no
Sorry, I'm not
now I
hearing you.
understand that what I need is patent. It's not copyright from the answer
Okay.
you gave.
Okay.
And I think from the answer I get now, I realize that what I need is patent, not copyright.
All right.
And yes, I would like to know more. Now I'll copy the mail. Then I would like to. I'll send the. I'll forward the mail. Like I'll send the mail tonight so that I will know what it will take to get it like register some, because there is something that I built and people have like no, I've not seen anything like not that I know that I'm the first that introduced that,
That's
but I'm looking for
impressive.
a way to protect it. I'm looking for a way to protect it, and I want to see, like, I want to know what's different. But now that I know that it's patent, then I will send you a mail,
All
and
right.
you get me a vendor to get that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much. I believe there was one more question from one of our attendees before we move on. We had one more question. I think it was from Mr. Oluwasegun Idowu. I don't know if you still have a question. All right. Whenever you would like to ask a question, just raise your hands again, and then we'll get to you immediately. But moving forward, okay, it's been answered. All right, that's very wonderful. Thank God. Thank you. So moving forward, basically, we've discussed around the rights that creatives had. We've discussed the importance of guarding those rights. But I just want to highlight what those rights are again, just to refresh our minds. So remember, we said that there's a right to your brand identity. Basically, everything you've worked for, your goodwill that you've worked for, it is called trademark. And trademark can protect you for up to 14 years from the day you registered it. And if you keep renewing that registration after every 7 years, that's apart from the original 14 years, then your brand identity can be yours forever. So a good example is Coca-Cola, right? If you use the brand Coca-Cola, not Coke per se or cola, but like Coca-Cola, if you try to use it, you can get sued immediately. Why? Because they have trademark protection. But it's very important to note that trademark protection is per country. and it is per industry. So if, for instance, you are a pharmacist, right, and you are able to create a particular drug, and then you named your drug, so I'll use one of our names, I'll use Chimka. So let's say you decide to name this particular drug that is for, maybe for hair growth, or maybe for wound healing, for maybe like skin ulcers or something like that, and it improves the skin, and you decide to name it Chimka, and then somebody else that makes shoes has a brand and names it Chimka. Now these two brands cannot be mistaken for each other because they are in extremely different industries. And if there's another Chimka, let's say in Ghana, you cannot also claim rights over that person because you do not register there. So that's the trick about brand identity and branding, right? That's the trick about brand identity. You have to protect it in important countries. So now it's very easy to say, oh, who has time to be going around? But I'll give you an example. The bigger your brand is, the more the urgency to do to register and protect it in multiple countries and multiple industries come in. So I'll give an example of Katy Perry. So Katy Perry went to Australia and was trying to sell her merch. I believe she was on tour or something like that a few years ago. But by the time she went there, she got hit with a lawsuit by another brand called Katy Perry. Now, the Katy was spelled differently. Instead of a Y, it was IE. But here's the thing, Katie and Katie, they are both the same pronunciation. They can be mistaken for each other. I'm sure there are many people that have never really consciously thought about the spelling of Katy Perry before. They just know it's Katy Perry, right? And so if they see IE, they will probably assume it's the same person. And this particular person argued that Katy Perry's merchandise were in the fashion industry. And this particular lady was in was in Australia doing her business under that particular brand name, and then Katy Perry comes there on tour trying to sell similar products, or should I say products that were in the same industry as the fashion industry as her, using the same name in the same country. And Katy Perry was hit with an injunction and she couldn't continue selling her merch there. Now she can sell it in other countries where she registered her trademark, but now you can see that a brand as big as hers, you would expect that she would have registered her trademark in all the countries that she could possibly go and do business in. Now, it is almost impossible, not completely impossible, but it is very difficult for you to do business in every single country in the world. That is why when you're preparing your business plans, you have to identify your target markets. You have to always check your metadata, check your ads. When you do ads, who are the people that these ads reach, right? What countries are they in? If let's say you stream music, or let's say you have spoken word poetry, and then you stream it online, you check out the countries people that are watching it are from, and then you're like, okay, these are the countries that I have a fan base in. If I want to sell any product or merchandise in the future, these are the people that will willingly buy. And so because of that, when I am ready to get a trademark, these are the countries I should trademark them in. So that is basically what brand identity is about. Now, your brand identity could be your name, right? So an example is Omotola the actress. She has trademarked her name in Nigeria. You cannot use the name Omotola in the entertainment industry in Nigeria. You may use Omotola something else, like it has to probably have like a surname or a differentiation, but you cannot use Omotola like that for any kind of merchandise in the entertainment industry in Nigeria. Yes. So there's a question: is there any process to register such trademarks in a way that it will cover? In a way that it will cover more than one country? Or okay, you actually have to go one by one. Now, there's something called the Berlin Convention that WIPO basically worked on. And this convention basically has members, and Nigeria is one of the members, but we have not yet signed it into law, in the sense that there's a particular registry where if you register on that particular platform, you have access to register in multiple countries. The only little issue about it is that it's very expensive. Jesus Christ. Woo! Strangely enough, it is cheaper to go country by country. God. It is cheaper to go country by country. And when I say it is very expensive, I don't mean that there's a particular lump sum that you pay for all the countries. No. I mean you are paying country by country on that platform. The only difference is that you can register at once. It's just that the cost of Father help me. The cost of registering in one country from the platform is almost enough to go one by one per country and register in up to 3 countries. You get, it's so expensive. So right now, I know they are working on making the process easier. They're working on streamlining it. They are also working on making it more affordable, because it's not only celebrities that have trademark to register, for Christ's sake. It's not only rich people that want to register trademark. So yes, because of that, there is a process that is being improved upon. And Larry's Cafe actually has made it a goal to ensure that we keep people up to date on such things. So for instance, by the time an affordable yeah, one by one, by the time an affordable process is available where you can do it in multiple countries at the same time, then we'll announce it. And I know that there's another one in Africa for French speaking countries. But yeah, for English speaking countries, I'm not aware of like straightforward processes yet. But for now, it's, you might as well just go one by one. Or like what we do in Nigeria, what a lot of lawyers do is that we have contacts in multiple countries, where we have like a network of lawyers in, especially intellectual property lawyers in multiple countries. So whenever our client wants to register in specific countries, we reach out to our network, right? And then they work for us in all the countries at the same time, and then we can present all the certificates to our clients after a period of time. And so yes, brand identity. If your brand is important to you, if you're going to spend that much money on building your brand, if you're going to spend that much money on like giving yourself a large following on social media and everything, then trademark must be important to you. But like I mentioned earlier, you have to keep renewing it, because anytime you don't renew it, or you don't use it for up to 5 years, you're going to lose that trademark. Chimka, please unmute your mic and speak.
Okay, so in terms of trademarks and branding,
Yeah.
let's say as somebody in the entertainment industry, and you have a document to sign or something that has to do with your name. Let's take for instance Fowls the bad
Yeah.
guy. Everybody knows him as Fowls the bad guy.
Yeah.
But he has a document to sign. Does he necessarily have to use his government name? Take for instance, I'm working with him, I give him a contract and all of that. Does he sign by Fowls the bad guy, or does he sign by his government name?
Now that's a very beautiful question. Not only will he sign by his government name, but if he's working with if he has a company that is going to collect that contract on his behalf, then the company has to go by its full registered name. So most times whenever I want to do any form of registration, or my clients are working with any contract, I always ask them to send me their ID, like a picture of their ID, maybe their international passport, or their NIN, or their driver's license, because the name has to be written on your contract like it is written on your identity. The reason is because if the name can cause any confusion in the court of law, it's something called voidable, meaning that contract has the potential to be dismissed as something that never existed, just because the name was incorrect. So the name is very important. So what many people do is that they indicate that this person, Folarin, is working in the bracket, working under the stage name Files the Bad Guy, and any other aliases that he may have. So a typical contract of a creative has their full name and then maybe 2 or 3 aliases, because sometimes as a producer they may have one name, as a musician they may have another name, as a writer they may have a different name. So I'll give an example of BTS. So one of my favorite members of BTS, Suga, he has his full name, right? So if he's writing a contract, he'll write his full name. As a musician, as a singer, as a performer, his name is Sugar. As a producer, his name is August D. You get, so whenever he writes any contract, he has to indicate the stage name that relates to that particular line of work. Or like I prefer my clients to do, write all your aliases. Thank you. Write all your aliases, all your nicknames, all your stage names in front. So yeah, that's it for branding. I think the next thing is now content. So as a creative, you have your copyright. Copyright basically is the rights to your content, and like I mentioned earlier, your copyright can last for up to 70 years. I know people don't like to talk about death after death, and this brings us to the fact that as an adult, as someone who is making money, as someone that is conscious of their rights, as a creative, you have to have a will, a living will, a will or at least a trust where everything that you are creating, you're going to assign it to that trust, and you can make yourself a beneficiary of the trust, or you could make your children beneficiaries of the trust. Basically, anybody that you would have put as your inheritors in a will, you can make them beneficiaries of a trust. That way, they won't have to go through the full probate system that wills usually attract. Basically, stress. I'm not going to go into details of what probate means on this particular call, but I will say that if you write a will, you can actually attract a lot of wahala and stress. And so you may as well just go and create a trust for yourself. You know, when we sometimes say trust fund babes and everything, you don't have to be a millionaire to have a trust fund. I beg you. As a creative, as someone that actually puts value on their work, create a trust for yourself. And even as somebody who even if you don't want to create a trust, you don't want to create a will, at least create a database of all the important information that you have, so that if something should happen to you today, even if you don't die, even if you probably go into a coma for like a year, have a database of your information whereby your next of kin can go there and find everything important to you. For instance, the password to your bank app, the password to your social media apps, the password to your royalty dashboard on, let's say, a streaming platform. You get the password to your Gmail account so that they can access your YouTube and stuff. Imagine if you are in a coma and you have money to treat yourself, but nobody has access to that money, and nobody has the money to treat you. What are you going to do? And it's very easy to say, oh, next of kin is going to inherit. Let me just debunk that. Your next of kin does not inherit your money. Your next of kin is just your emergency contact, nothing else. Inheritance is basically something that is going to be sorted out at the probate registry, or what we like to call the court. You get your next of kin, they inherit. It's just like one of those mistakes that we make, where it's just like when we say, you will give the divorce papers, you will sign the divorce papers, and you guys are divorced. That doesn't work. It doesn't work like that in Nigeria. It also doesn't work like that in most countries in the world. You get, it's an American system. It's in Nigeria, you will go to court, you will convince the court that your marriage has scattered before it will actually scatter. You get the same thing in many other countries. It's film. That's another thing why our creatives need to be educated, because you guys are the ones telling our stories for us. You cannot afford to make certain mistakes. You get, and that is why at Larry's Cafe, remember I said that we're creating a database of information, cultural information, arts information, fashion, entertainment information, legal information, so that when you are writing, when you are producing, when you are creating in any form, you are actually correct. Like, you actually use correct terminology. So for instance now, even in terms of the next of kin thing, right? Your next of kin is just the person that will be notified if anything goes wrong, and the next of kin should be actually have access to your stuff. Create a database somewhere that, okay, this next of kin has this password, that if anything should happen to me, log into my Google Gmail account. In my Gmail account, there's a folder. That folder has all the passwords to everything that I do. Okay, these are the clients that I work with. This is how much they are owing me. This is when they have promised to make payments. These are my business partners. Meet this person, meet that person. For instance, let's say you go into a coma now, right? God forbid, let's say you are a single parent. No, even if you cannot expect other people to maybe take care of your children 100%. What if your child also goes into, like, has a medical emergency that nobody can take care of financially, and you have the money, but because everything of yours is a secret, your next of kin cannot do anything, and your next of kin should not be a child, for Christ's sake. I don't know why I'm saying all these things today, but your next of kin should be somebody that can take action, someone you trust, not just someone that you want to inherit, because the person that you want to inherit may not necessarily be someone that is financially should I say intelligent. It may not be somebody that you necessarily trust to do things. You get, I mean, you may love your family, but they may not be the best people, so they can be beneficiaries to your will, they can be beneficiaries to your trust, but they don't have to be your next of kin. You get, so with things like that, there are many more things that Larry's Cafe discusses and teaches, and that's basically what you're going to get on Larry's Cafe Academy. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, a lots more. I don't want to have like a full barrage of information on you guys. I don't want to overburden you with too much information right now. I believe that a lot of these details are things that you should go and search for and focus on and take your time to marinate. See, feel free to email me. Like I already put our email address in the chat box. I'll do it again. Info at lariscafe.org. Send me as many questions as possible. I will answer it. Basically, that's what Larry's Cafe Academy is about, is to ensure that as a creative, you're not walking blind, and as a creative, that your contribution is actually increasing and improving our economy in Africa, economy in Nigeria, and ultimately the world economy, because I mean Africa is a huge part of the whole world. And with this, I believe we have come to the end of this webinar. Thank you very much, everybody, for showing up. We have a lot on Larry's Cafe. I would actually like for every single one of us to visit the website this evening after this webinar. Please visit the website. There's a lot we have. We have a documentary for you to watch. It's just like 15 minutes on YouTube. Of course, you can just search YouTube directly, Larry's Cafe on YouTube, or you just go to the website. You will see it on our homepage. We have a course, a video course that teaches you how to value your intellectual property, how to put a price tag on your music, a price tag on your poems, a price tag on your books, a price tag on your photographs, any kind of content that you create, right? Your movies and the rest. We teach you step by step. It's a video course. It's like about 3-hour course. So you can take the course anyhow you want. You can pay for the course and decide to actually take the course like next year. You can pay in advance, or especially in case our prices go up and everything. We also have ebooks that you can buy that break down ownership rights, that break down even the IP valuation, intellectual property valuation, how to put a price tag correctly using different metrics like the income that you are going to generate, the cost of money that you use to create, maintain, and even promote that particular work. We'll also consider issues like the market value of that particular work. So there are many things in which you can use to put a price tag on your work. And what we do is that we have I think 24 ebooks. Yes, we have up to 24 different ebooks. 12 of them are about IP valuation, about putting a price tag on your work, and about 12 of them are about understanding ownership rights. So everything that we talked about today, we're going to break it down. Well, not going to, we already did. And in the next few weeks, we're going to be dropping new ebooks from time to time. So go to the website, join our community, or better yet, join our email list. If you're on the email list, you'll be getting updates when every single ebook is dropped, when we have webinars like this again, or even just Instagram live sessions. But like I said, regardless of the programs that we have, you can just shoot us a direct email, ask your questions, and we will answer. Thank you guys for showing up. I want everybody to unmute their mics and say thank you to our speakers. Thank you to Miss Oreva. Thank you, Mr. Mufasa. Thank you to Miss Torichuku.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you for showing up today. And for everybody that showed up, I know that this is working hours. Thank you so much for showing up. This video is going to be available for replay on our YouTube channel. So like I said, check lariscafe.org and you're going to get links to all our social media platforms. Follow us so that other people can also see what you have seen. Thanks. Have a wonderful day. Bye.